The frozen girlet was a cold, silent night. The forest was covered in snow. The wind whispered through the trees, and everything felt still, too still. Jake was walking alone. He lived near the forest in a small wooden cabin. He liked the quiet. Life, no traffic, no noise, just trees, animals, and stars. That night he went outside because his dog, Max, was barking. Max never barked for no reason. Jake followed him through the trees, holding a flashlight. His boots sank into the snow with each step. Suddenly, Max stopped. He growled. Looking ahead, Jake pointed the light forward and gasped. There was smoke in the air rising from behind the trees. And then, soft blue glow. Not fire. Not normal light. It looked ... strange. Jake moved closer, heart beating fast. Behind the trees, he saw it. Something had crashed. It looked like a small metal pod, half buried in snow. The shape was smooth and round, and the surface was glowing faintly with a soft, blue light. It was warm. The snow around it had melted. Jake took a deep breath and touched the side. It felt alive, like it was breathing suddenly. A small door on the side opened with a soft hiss. Inside, there was someone, a girl. She was curled up, shaking. Her skin was pale with a slight glow, like moonlight. Her hair was silver and wet. Her clothes were strange, not like anything from Earth. She looked young, but not human. Jake froze. He didn't know what to do. But she looked weak, dying. Her lips moved. "Help," she whispered. Her voice was soft, broken. Then she collapsed. Jake's heart raced. He didn't understand what was happening, but he couldn't leave her. He picked her up carefully. She was cold, so cold, like she had been in ice. Her fingers were blue. She weighed almost nothing. Max walked beside them, quiet now. Jake carried the girl back to his cabin. Inside, he placed her on the couch near the fireplace and wrapped her in blankets. He turned up the heat. She didn't wake up. Jake sat next to her and looked at her face. She had small cuts on her forehead. Skin glowed softly in the firelight. "Who are you?" he whispered. There was no answer. Hours passed. Snow fell harder outside. Stayed awake, watching her. Max lay near the door, alert then, just before. Morning, she opened her eyes. They were bright, glowing blue like stars. Jake sat up quickly. "You're awake," he said gently. "You're safe now." She stared at him, confused. Her lips trembled. "Where am I?" she asked. "You're in my home." "I found you in the forest. You were freezing." She looked around, eyes wide. She tried to sit up, but groaned in pain. "Don't move too much," Jake said. "You're hurt." She touched her side. There was a burn mark. Jake had tried to clean it, but it looked deep. "You're not from here, are you?" The girl looked down. "No." "Are you an alien?" he asked carefully. She didn't answer. Then she looked at the window. Her face turned pale. "They will come," she whispered. "Who? They know I'm here. I ran away, but they will find me." Jake was silent for a moment. This was more than he expected. He thought he was helping a lost girl, not someone from another world. "Why were you in that pod?" he asked. "I escaped. Crash," she said. "I didn't mean to come here." Jake leaned forward. "Are you dangerous?" She looked into his eyes. "No." "But they are." "Who's they?" She didn't speak. Her body shook again. Jake sighed. "Okay, rest now. We'll figure this out later." The girl lay back and closed her eyes. But Jake couldn't relax. He looked out the window. The forest was quiet again, but something didn't feel right, like something was watching. Suddenly, the radio on his table turned on by itself. static. Then, a deep voice in a strange language came through. Jake ran to turn it off. The girl whispered from behind him, "They are already looking." Jake stood still. His dog growled again. The wind blew hard outside, shaking the door. He looked at the strange girl on his couch. And he knew. This was not just a rescue. This was the beginning of something much bigger and much more dangerous. Asterisk, the cabin was quiet. But Jake could not sleep. Outside, the wind pushed against the windows like it was trying to come in. Inside, the fire had burned low. Shadows danced on the walls. The strange girl lay on the couch, still wrapped in blankets. She looked peaceful now, but Jake knew something was not right. Her skin still had that soft blue glow. Her body was healing. Fast, faster than any human could. He had seen the burn on her side fade like smoke in just a few hours. Jake sat at the table with a cup of black coffee, staring at her. Who was she? Why was she running? And what did she mean by "they will come"? Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes. She sat up slowly. Her glowing eyes looked around the cabin. "Where am I?" She asked again, more clearly this time. "My cabin," Jake said. "In the woods, North Ridge." She looked confused. "Is it far from the cities?" "Yes," Jake replied. "Very far." "Why?" "They don't like noise," she said softly. "They listen for signals." Jake leaned forward. "Who are they?" "You keep saying they, but I don't know what that means." The girl hesitated. Then, in a very low voice, she said, "Hunters." Jake frowned. "You mean people." "No," she said. "They look like people, but they're not." She looked down at her hands. "They made me. I was supposed to obey them. I escaped." Jake was quiet for a moment. K-Mind was trying to catch up. "Made you?" he asked. "Are you a machine?" She looked at him, almost hurt. "No, I'm real. My heart beats. I feel pain. I cry. But I was born in a lab. Grown, not raised." Jake stood up and walked to the window. The forest looked normal, but now he knew better. "Do they know you're here?" he asked. She nodded. "The pod, it had a signal. I tried to shut it off before crashing, but maybe they heard." Jake looked at his radio. It had turned on by itself last night. Was that them? "What's your name?" he asked. The girl paused. "Leary." Jake smiled gently. "I'm Jake." Leary looked at the fire. "You saved me. You were freezing to death." "I've never felt cold before," she said. "On my planet, it's warm. Always warm." Jake was about to ask more, but then something made both of them stop. A soft beep came from behind the fireplace. Jake turned. That spot had always been quiet. It was just an old brick wall. Then it beeped again, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Jake moved closer. He pressed on one of the stones. It shifted slightly behind it, a hidden compartment. He reached inside. There was a small black box, smooth metal and warm to the touch. It was glowing faintly blue dot. Jake had never seen it before. "What is this?" he whispered. "LIR." I stood now. Her eyes widened. "That's not yours," she said. "That's a tracker. It doesn't belong to humans." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "How did it get here?" Leary shook her head. "They've been here before, watching. Maybe this cabin was used by them once." Suddenly, the box pulsed once, and the glow turned red. "What does that mean?" Jake asked, backing away. "It means," Leary said slowly, "they found the signal." Jake grabbed a blanket and threw it over the box, but the light kept glowing through. "Can we destroy it?" he asked. "No," she said, "but we can run." Jake looked around. "It's snowing hard." We won't get far tonight. Leary looked at the door. Then we must hide, Jake thought quickly. There was an old cellar under the cabin. He had used it to store food. It was hidden under the floorboards. He opened the trap door. Cold air rushed up. Go, he said. Stay there. I'll cover the house, make it look empty. Leary paused. Why are you helping me? Jake looked at her, serious now. Because I saw fear in your eyes. And people who feel fear are not monsters. Leary slowly climbed down the ladder into the dark cellar. Jake closed the door and threw a rug over it. Just then, the power flickered. Then the lights died, silence outside. A low hum began to rise, like something flying above the trees. Jake grabbed his flashlight and moved to the window. Through the snow, he saw something floating, black dot, silent, watching. The wind had stopped. No sound, no birds, no trees moving, just silence. Thick like fog, Jake stood near the window, flashlight in one hand, his other hand resting on the shotgun he hadn't used in years. Out in the dark sky above the treetops, something hovered. Not a helicopter, no blades, no sound, just a black shape, smooth like glass, floating silently. It didn't blink, didn't move. But Jake knew it was watching. Max, his dog, growled softly beside him. Jake whispered, "Easy boy." Inside the cellar, under the floor, Leary sat with her knees to her chest. Her glowing skin had dimmed. Her breathing was slow and quiet. She could feel them. They were near. Not just the drone above. Something else was coming. Something worse. She closed her eyes and whispered a single word. Sentinels. Upstairs, the drone disappeared suddenly, as if it had never been there. Jake waited, heart pounding. Then came headlights. A vehicle, slow and careful, moving through the snowy path that led to his cabin. Jake hadn't seen another soul in weeks. The car stopped 20 feet away. A man stepped out, black coat, dark sunglasses at night. He moved too smoothly, like every step was planned. Another figure stepped out behind him, a woman also. Dressed in black, her face pale and expressionless. Jake opened the door before they could knock. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man smiled, but it was not warm. It was the kind of smile someone wears like a mask. "We're from the weather department," the man said. "Strange weather out here," added the woman. "Unnatural lights in the sky. Strong energy readings." Jake narrowed his eyes. "I haven't seen anything." The man looked around. "Live here alone?" Jake nodded. "No one else came by?" "No one." "Crashed in the woods? Maybe." Jake didn't move. "You think a plane crashed?" "Not exactly a plane," the woman said, staring too long at Jake's eyes. Max barked loudly. The man flinched, not in fear, but in annoyance. "Control your animal," he said sharply. Jake stepped out onto the porch, closing the door behind him. "If you're done asking strange questions, I'd like to go back inside." The man's fake smile returned. "Of course. But if you do find something strange, you should tell us." "We keep people safe," the woman added. They got back into the car. But before leaving, the man looked back once more and said, "Be careful, Mr. Jake. The forest isn't safe anymore." Then the car drove off into the snow. Jake waited until the lights were gone. Then he opened the cellar door. Leary came out slowly. Her face was pale. "They are not people," she said. "They are sentinels. First wave, they don't search, they scan." "Why do they want you?" Jake asked. "I'm a traitor," Leary said softly. "I saw what they were planning. I ran. Now they want to erase me." Jake was quiet. "What are they planning?" "They want to open the gate," she said. "Earth is a key. It's close to a path between stars. If they take control of this world, they can reach others. Jake frowned. So, we're just a door to them. Leary nodded. Not important, just useful. Jake looked at her, this glowing girl from another world. She looked so small, but she was carrying something big. Too big, you need to hide somewhere safer, Jake said. It's cabin, it's not enough. Leary stood slowly. There's a place. I saw it on your map. She pointed to a high mountain range marked in red dot. Jake blinked. That place is cold, frozen all year. Good, she said. They hate the cold. That night, Jake packed a bag. He took food, a flare gun, and old maps. Max barked as Leary stepped outside the cabin. Her body glowed brighter now under the moonlight. Snow didn't melt under her feet. It froze harder as they walked into the forest. Jake looked back at the cabin. He felt like he was leaving home forever. Back near the road, the black car stopped. Again, the man in black touched a small screen. It showed a heat trail. Faint footsteps, glowing, moving north. He smiled without smiling. They're running. He said. The woman beside him nodded. Then we hunt. Asterisk, the snow grew deeper with every step. Jake, Leary, and Max moved through the forest in silence. Only the crunch of snow under their feet broke the stillness. Above them, the moon was hidden behind heavy clouds. Jake's jacket was soaked. His beard was frozen, but he kept walking. Leary didn't complain once. She didn't seem to feel the cold anymore. They were heading toward the mountains, the place Leary called safe. But Jake knew the truth. There was no safe place. Not anymore. After hours of walking, they found an old cave near a frozen river. It was hidden behind a wall of ice. Jake had seen it before during winter hunts, but never entered. Now it was their shelter inside. The cave was cold but dry. Jake lit a small fire using dry moss and wood. The flames danced against the walls, lighting up old bones and broken rocks. Leary sat beside the fire. Her silver hair glowed faintly. She looked calm, but her eyes were distant. Are you okay? Jake asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she said, I'm tired. From walking? No, from hiding. Jake sat across from her. Max curled up nearby, keeping watch. You don't have to run forever, Jake said. I looked at him. Yes, I do. Until I die, or they catch me. Jake leaned forward. There has to be another way. There is, she whispered. But it's not simple. Jake waited. Leary slowly reached into her jacket and pulled out a small, smooth crystal. It shimmered with a soft blue light. This is a key, she said. It can shut down the gate, but only once. Jake frowned. Then, use it. Close it. She shook her head. I can't use it alone. I need someone from this world. Someone human. The gate reads your kind. Jake stared at the crystal. It looked harmless, like a toy. But he could feel its power. Why me? He asked. Because you saved me, she said. And because you haven't run away. Jake didn't know what to say. He stared into the fire for a long time. Then, quietly, he asked, what happens if we fail? Leary's voice was almost a whisper. Earth will burn. Your people will become slaves. The stars will go dark. Silence filled the cave. Then Jake stood up. I'll do it, he said. Tell me where the gate is. Later that night, Leary sat outside the cave, looking at the stars. The clouds had cleared. Above them, the sky was wide and black, filled with cold, distant lights. Jake joined her. He gave her a can of soup, still warm. Your stars look different, she said softly. Do you miss your home? I don't know what home is, she said. I was born in a lab, raised by machines. I never saw sunlight until I escaped. Jake was quiet. He looked at her face, not just alien, but young, sad, alone. "I'm sorry," he said. She looked at him, eyes shining. "You don't have to be." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, "Why are you helping me?" Jake looked at the firelight in her eyes. "Because I think," he said slowly, "you deserve to live, and maybe, because I don't want to be alone anymore either." She smiled. A small, soft smile. The first real one. Then, gently, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, warm. Then she pulled away. "I'm not like you," she whispered. Jake nodded. "But you feel like me." Far away, in a dark bunker under the snow, 2 sentinels stood in front of a giant screen. On it, they watched the mountain range. Small red dots moved slowly. "They've reached the gate path," one said. "Shall we deploy the drones?" "No, let them come." The screen zoomed in on Jake's face. The man in black smiled. He's already made his choice. Back in the cave, Leary opened a map. She pointed to a red mark near the mountain top. "The gate is hidden in ice. Old tech, buried long ago. My people wanted it forgotten, but the sentinels found it." Jake traced the path with his finger. "Will leave at first light," he said. Leary nodded. "Once we reach the gate, everything changes." Jake looked at her. "We either save the world or lose it," she finished. Outside, a single silver drone hovered high above the trees. It made no sound, but it saw everything. The sky was gray when Jake opened his eyes. Snowflakes floated quietly from above. The wind had stopped again. The forest was too calm, like it was holding its breath. Leary was already awake, sitting on a rock near the cave's entrance. She was staring at something in her hand, a piece of broken metal. Jake walked over and sat beside her. "What's that?" he asked. She turned the metal toward him. It was a small panel, covered in strange symbols. Some of them were glowing. "This is part of the gate," she said. "I found it when I crashed. The energy inside, still alive." Jake looked at it closely. It was warm to the touch. A low hum came from within. "How far is the gate?" "Now," he asked. "Half a day," she replied. "But there's a problem." Jake's chest tightened. "What kind of problem?" "We have to send a signal before we get there," Leary said. "A warning?" "Warning who?" "My people." She said, "Not all of them want war. Some still care. They know what the Sentinels are planning. They may help." Jake nodded slowly. "Okay, where do we send it from?" "There's an old Earth satellite station nearby," Leary said. "Buried, but I can wake it up." Jake smiled. "You can do that?" Leary gave a small smirk. "I wasn't just made to run. I was made to know things." They left the cave and began hiking toward the station. The path was steep, covered in ice. Trees became thinner. The wind colder hours passed. Then, finally, they saw it, an old, broken tower sticking out from a frozen hill. Rusted metal, broken panels. The sign on the wall read, "Sierra, come 12. Inactive. Jake pushed open the frozen door. It creaked. Inside was dust, ice, and silence. Leary moved quickly, her hands glowing faintly as she touched the walls. Small lights flickered. Old machines woke up, coughing and clicking. She found the control panel. "This will take a minute," she said. Jake stood near the window. Watching the trees below, something didn't feel right. Leary worked fast, connecting wires, changing settings. Symbols on the screen shifted from red to green dot, then a hum. A beam of blue light shot into the sky. Jake turned sharply. "Is that it?" Leary nodded. "It's done. They'll hear it." Jake smiled, but Leary didn't. "What is it?" he asked. She swallowed. "The signal works both ways." Jake's smile faded. "You mean They heard it too? Leary nodded. They're coming. Suddenly, Max barked loud from the door. Jake ran to the window. Drones, 5 of them. Flying fast. We have to go. He shouted, ".lir." I pulled the crystal from her jacket and shoved it into Jake's hand. Take this. If I fall, you finish it. Jake shook his head. I'm not leaving you. It's no time to argue, she said. The tower shook. A drone slammed into the roof. Sparks flew. Jake fired his shotgun at the window, shattering it. Out this way. They jumped. Snow exploded around them as they hit the ground and rolled down the hill. Jake lost his bag, but held on to the crystal above. More drones circled like vultures. Leary stood, eyes glowing bright. She raised her hand, and the air around them turned blue. A wave of energy burst outward, hitting one of the drones. It fell, smoking. But Leary fell to her knees, weak. I can't use it again, she said. Jake picked her up. Then, let's run. They ran through the forest, dodging branches and deep snow. Drones followed, scanning, hunting. Then, out of nowhere, a bright flash. One of the trees exploded. The snow turned red. Jake ducked behind a rock, pulling Leary down. She was bleeding from her shoulder. Jake's hands trembled. No, no. Stay with me, Leary looked into his eyes. You must reach the gate. Even if I don't, I'm not going without you. You have to. Her voice cracked. Because if that gate opens, everything dies. Jake looked at the crystal in his hand. It pulsed gently, like a heart. Then he looked at Leary, pale, shaking, but still trying to stand. No, he said. We do this together. Far above, in the darkness of space, a giant structure began to glow. The gate, its circular frame, cracked open. Inside, a swirling black storm formed a path between stars. From deep within that storm, shadows moved, ships, soldiers, something worse. The gate was waking back on Earth. The last drone pulled away. Its scan complete. It sent one word back to its masters. Target moving toward the gate. Asterisk, the sky was beginning to change. Not with sunrise, but with something darker. Faint red cracks had opened across the horizon. The air felt strange, too still. Even the snow seemed to wait. Jake stood on a high ridge with Max beside him, staring at the mountain pass below. That was where the gate would appear, Leary had told him. Behind him, inside an old stone ruin, buried under ice. Leary lay weak, but alive. Her shoulder was bandaged. Her skin no longer glowed like before. She had given too much. Jake had wanted to turn back. To run, to find help. But she had looked him in the eye and said one sentence, there is no one else. Now it was almost time. Leary stepped outside slowly, wrapped in Jake's coat. Her steps were light. Careful Jake helped her stand. You should rest, he said. I've rested enough, she whispered. If this is our last day, I want to see the sky. They both looked up. Above them, the stars were fading. A circle of swirling clouds was forming black at the center, red around the edges. It looked like an eye. Opening, the gate is close. Leary said. Jake took out the crystal. It pulsed in his palm. How do we use it? He asked. You place it in the heart of the gate, Leary replied, but there will be guards. Jake looked down at the trees below. Already, he could see dark figures moving through the snow. Not walking, but gliding. Smooth, silent, sentinels. There were more than before. A dozen, maybe more. And above them, black ships hovered in the sky, small. Scout class, watching, waiting. Jake gripped his shotgun tighter. I don't know if I can stop them, he said. You don't need to stop all of them, Leary said softly. You just need to give me time. Jake turned to her. What are you planning? She smiled weakly. One last signal. They moved quickly. Jake set traps in the trees, wires, small firebombs, anything he could build. He had hunted before, but this time he was the prey. Leary stood in the center of the ruin, placing the crystal into an ancient stone circle. It sank in like it belonged there. The air trembled. The crystal lit up bright blue, then white. A sound rang out, not loud, but deep, like the mountain itself was waking up far above. The gate shimmered, its black storm twisting faster. The sentinels reacted. They moved faster now, their heads turning toward the ruin. Jake fired the first shot. The sound echoed across the mountain. One sentinel dropped, the others didn't stop. Max barked loudly, running through the trees, drawing the enemy into the traps. A firebomb exploded near a boulder, sending 2 sentinels flying. Jake ran, reloading, breathing hard. One of the drones swooped down. Leary raised her hand weakly, sending a wave of energy just enough to knock it off course. But it drained her. She fell to her knees. "Jake," she shouted, "I can't hold the signal." Jake turned. "Then I will." He ran back to the ruin, grabbed the crystal, and held it in both hands. It burned, not with fire, but with memory. Visions flooded his mind. Leary's planet, broken cities, empty skies, people running. Then Earth, peaceful forests. Cities full of life, children laughing. And then fire, everything burning. Jake screamed, not in pain, but rage. He slammed the crystal back into the stone with both hands. The mountain shook. The gate in the sky began to close, but slowly. The sentinels knew. They charged the ruin. Jake stood in the doorway, shotgun ready. First came 1, then 3. He fired, reloaded, fired again. They were fast. One jumped, clawing at his arm. Max attacked it from the side, growling, biting. Jake slammed it with a shotgun and fired point blank. But more were coming. Too many. Then light behind him. Leary rose to her feet, her whole body glowing white-blue, brighter than ever before. Her eyes turned silver. She floated above the stone floor. She raised both hands and screamed. A wave of light exploded outward. Every sentinel within 100 feet turned to dust. The ground cracked. The sky tore open. The gate above shattered like glass breaking in space. Then silence. The red cracks faded from the sky. The black clouds disappeared. Only the morning sun remained, soft and golden. Leary collapsed into Jake's arms. He held her close, shaking. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved them." She opened her eyes, weak. "No, we did." Then she smiled and closed her eyes. Far away, in the stars, a signal traveled across galaxies. Earth protected. Gate lost. Subject, Leary, terminated. But somewhere, far beyond even that, a single blue spark glowed in darkness, still alive. The mountain was silent again. Snow fell softly from the sky. The red light was gone. The black gate in the sky had shattered, its ashes now lost in the wind. But inside the ruins, Jake held her in his arms. Leary's body was cold, too still. She wasn't glowing anymore. Her chest didn't rise. Her heartbeat gone. Jake sat on the frozen floor, arms wrapped around her, his face hidden in her silver hair. Max whimpered beside them. The world had been saved. But Jake's world had ended. Time passed. But he didn't know how much. The sun rose slowly over the mountains. Golden light touched the trees, the snow and the broken gate above, and then the crystal in the stone flickered. Just once, then again, soft, gentle, like a whisper. Jake opened his eyes. The stone beneath Leary was glowing, not bright, not loud, but warm. He pulled back slowly. watching in disbelief. Leary's fingers twitched. Then her chest rose, just a little. Her lips parted, a soft breath escaped. Jake leaned in, tears in his eyes. Leary. Her eyelids fluttered. Eyes opened, blue dot, alive. I'm here, she whispered. Jake laughed, a laugh full of tears. He hugged her tightly, careful not to hurt her. You came back, he said. I wasn't gone, she whispered. Not fully. You kept me alive. Later, they sat near the fire in a nearby cave. Leary rested with a blanket around her shoulders. Jake looked at her and asked, How did you survive that? She smiled faintly. The signal wasn't just to shut the gate. It was also a message. To who? To myself. Jake raised an eyebrow. Leary touched her chest. I was created without fear, without love, without soul. But when you touched the crystal, when you chose to fight, it changed me. I became something they couldn't erase. Jake looked into her eyes. You became human. She nodded, and it saved me. News would soon spread. Strange lights. In the sky, explosions in the mountains. Signals from space, governments would send people to investigate. But by then, Jake and Leary would be gone. 1 week later, they walked through a quiet valley far from towns, far from cities. Leary wore earth clothes now, jeans, a coat, and a scarf Jake gave her. Her glow was gone. Not because she had lost power, but because she no longer needed to hide what she stared. She looked up at the stars. They look different now, she said. Jake smiled. Why? Because I'm not afraid of them anymore. Jake reached for her hand. She held his tightly. Where do we go from here? She asked. Anywhere, Jake said. We've got time now. They stopped near a small lake. The water was still. Leary stepped forward, her reflection shining back at her. Her eyes filled with emotion. I never knew what it meant to be alive, she said. To feel cold, to laugh, to cry, to be loved. Jake placed a hand on her shoulder. Now you do. She turned to face him and kissed him, not like before. Not unsure, but deeply, far away, in the remains of a destroyed control station. The broken sentinels lay scattered in the snow. One of them blinked red. Once, then went dark. The war was over. Earth had been spared. But more importantly, Leary had been saved. Not by weapons, not by ships, but by a choice. A hand reaching out. A voice saying, You're not alone. Final scene. Jake and Leary sit under the stars. She leans against his shoulder. He wraps a blanket around them both. They say nothing, because some endings don't need words. Some stories end with peace and love.